Good afternoon, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. The US resumes arms deliveries to Ukraine amidst controversies surrounding decision-making process in the Trump administration. Is Donald Trump ready to put more pressure on Russia? To talk about it and more, we're joined by Roland Freudenstein, co-founder of the Brussel Freedom Hub. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon from Brussels.
So let's begin with alleged recordings of Donald Trump talking about bombing Moscow. What do you make of it?
Well, that was said several years ago at a fundraiser, and honestly, it sounds impressive. But if you remember the Oval Office shout-out with President Zelensky, where he accused Volodymyr Zelensky of playing with World War III, well, that might be a description for Trump himself. And I think the likelihood is that he just wanted to seem and look very determined to the potential sponsors of his election campaign. That's the main reason.
Now, as we're discussing bombs, American media report, it was Pete Hegseth who stalled arms deliveries to Ukraine. Now, how strong is his position? And, well, after all, who runs U.S. foreign and defense policies?
That's an excellent question, Maciej. Look, Pete Hegseth, for the second time, I believe, looks really, really bad in exactly what you described as the foreign and security policy decision-making. But I mean, it's certainly not his personal problem alone. This administration has fired so many competent and experienced people and hired so many amateurs, to put it mildly, that it's no wonder that a very, very important decision has been taken on arms deliveries to Ukraine, evidently without the president knowing about it or the White House being consulted or informed. I mean, this is, I'm afraid, the new normal in Washington. And on top of that, you do have political differences in the administration. I'm almost tempted to say philosophical differences about how to address Russia's aggression against Ukraine, what the U.S. role is in this, and how many and which weapon systems the U.S. should deliver to Ukraine. So, and plus the third factor, I think, that comes in here, there seems to be at least one version of what happened in the last 12 days that says the unexpected use of Patriot missiles to ward off the Iranian counterstrike against the U.S. strike on the Iranian nuclear sites used up so many Patriot missiles that suddenly there were some missing. But again, there are some people contradicting that story, that narrative. It's anybody's guess, honestly.
I see. But, well, at least Donald Trump seems quite determined now. So do you think that we'll observe now sort of a major U-turn in his approach to conflict in Ukraine and, well, to the Kremlin itself? Just to quote him, the Ukrainians, whether you think it's unfair that we gave all that money or not, they were very brave because somebody had to operate that stuff. Now, that's a major change in Trump's narrative concerning Ukraine, right?
Well. Let's stay calm here and look at previous things he has said over the last 5 months in office. He has expressed his displeasure about what Putin did, even shock and horror about missile attacks before, about killing civilians. He has been presuming that maybe Putin is tapping him along. So, we from time to time, we hear these expressions of frustration from President Trump about Vladimir Putin. And then what happens afterwards? Exactly nothing. So that is the case so far. I believe that Trump has done a U-turn on Vladimir Putin when he takes action. And frankly speaking, the reversal of the halting of the arms shipments doesn't count, because these were commitments that the U.S. government subscribed to under the previous president, and by international law was actually obliged to fulfill. So, look at the sanctions packet that Lindsey Graham and other Congress people, other senators have prepared against Russia, which would mean that the U.S. actually takes unprecedented action in economic terms against Russia and its warfighting capability and third countries. And I think it was like already 8 weeks ago that Lindsey Graham said, President Trump will sooner or later agree to this. Trump himself said something big is going to happen in the next 2 weeks, and then nothing happened. Even after Russia's massive escalation of the air war against Ukraine, and enormous numbers of drones and missiles flying into Ukraine, this sanctions packet is still in the White House. I mean, Congress would approve it with a bipartisan, crushing majority, but the Republicans will only vote in favor if Trump personally agrees. And so far, he hasn't. So whatever he says about, is the bromance now finally ending or not, I believe that something changes when there is action from the president against Vladimir Putin, and we haven't seen that yet.
There's a new bill being presented in the Congress, Preventing the Escalation of Armed Conflict in Europe Act, PEACE. For sure, that's a beautiful name. Now, it's designed to sanction basically banks who facilitate the inflow of money to Russia's energy sector. Now, the question is, would Donald Trump be willing to give it a go? Because, as you said, the Graham bill is still, its future is very much uncertain.
It's pending.
Yeah, but what about the new initiative?
Same story. I believe there's a U-turn when the president puts himself behind one or both of these bills. And we all know that Putin is not only flattering Trump personally, congratulating him on his birthday, on the 4th of July, Independence Day, but Putin is also promising very substantial business deals, for example, in the energy field, to America and to, Trump personally. So, these are factors that at least hold Trump back in taking real action against Putin, at least so far.
Well, there's another question about the effectiveness of sanctions already in place. There was an investigation recently in Ukraine, and it has shown that some 60% of parts of a Russian military jet down in Ukraine were made in the US. I mean, how is it even possible?
Well, this works via third countries. This works via companies in Western countries that actually find ways to circumvent the export controls of dual-use goods, and computer chips are one of those. So there are numerous ways to circumvent that. I would nevertheless not discount the effect of the sanctions. If you look at all indicators of the Russian economy, it is now on the verge of recession for the first time in about 2.5 years. Russia had a very bad 2022 when the full-scale invasion began, but since then, it has had actual economic growth, and that growth is now subsiding, and the Russian economy looks really, really bad in the next 12 months. Something has to give. So that's also an effect of the sanctions. Of course, the fact that China actually delivers the dual-use goods that may be lacking now because of Western sanctions is another factor. I hear that now the Iranian-constructed Shahed drones that are now produced in license in Russia, they contain 90% of their sophisticated electronic equipment is actually made in China. So, even if Western sanctions worked 100%, it would not keep China from decisively helping Russian military aggression against Ukraine. So sanctions can only achieve so much, but I think if you look at the whole picture of the Russian economy, they're already achieving a lot now.
Well, on Wednesday, Russia launched the biggest drone assault on Ukraine so far. And in this context, shortly, please, what do you expect from the upcoming Coalition of the Willing summit?
I think it's really important for Europeans to think out of the box, to go beyond the European Union and NATO in bringing together a coalition of countries. And this is, we call it Rammstein Plus or whatever. But there needs to be a global coalition of countries that do their utmost to help Ukraine also deal with this escalating air war from Russia, which has become quite dramatic.
Roland Freudenstein, co-founder of the Brussels Freedom Hub. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for much more here on TVP World.